welcome to the Pickle Planet Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jenna Morton.
And I'm Tosh Taylor. So, last week, we did a podcast on some really cool stuff that's going on in Riverview.
Yes.
And we wanted to keep up with some really great stuff that's happening in the Moncton area, too. And I'm sure you've heard of this before because she is everywhere, right? Work of Heart. And it's coming up very soon. So we wanted to talk with Angela Harris. She is the creator of Work of Heart. And we want to just kind of deep dive into it today. Like, what started Work of Heart?
Great question.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm like, do I make this up now or?
Just start today. Yeah.
You're talking, you're like, she's everyone. I'm like, who? Oh, me. Right. Got it. So what started Work of Heart? Well, I would say going back, a number of years, I was in a corporate career, corporate sales for about 20 years. Did a lot of different things and just never seemed to, find the thing that really like filled me up. And so about, 4 or 5 years ago, I went on this, journey to try and feel better, to try and find more things that, would help me with my health, with my mindset, etc. And so along the way, every time I'd be doing something, I kind of had this little voice inside that was like, oh, hey, someone should do an event and have like yoga. Someone should do an event and talk about meditation or talk about stress, talk about sleep. And I guess I was just kind of like, I was compiling it, but in my mind, it was like someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone else, right? And so, I made a number of changes in my career, made a number of changes with my health, and I was starting to feel better. And then one day I was sitting at an event. I had done an event myself that morning, and all of a sudden I was like, I'm supposed to do the event. I can do the event. I've done, events in my corporate work, and, it's just kind of how I'm wired as well. And so, so I started thinking about it, and then I made the mistake of telling someone. I was like, said it out loud, and then I told someone else, and I told someone else. And, before long, it was like, okay, this is happening. I'm doing it. I'm very much about like setting goals and like setting deadlines, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna pick a date, having no idea what this is gonna look like or what was gonna happen. And so here we are, and we're going into year number 4, and I could never have imagined that it would all turn out the way that it has.
Unreal.
So,
Wow.
I think that's so powerful for people to hear and to have that understanding that not everything is always perfectly planned when we decide to do it, right? It's like, no, you know what? I'm just going to say I'm going to do this and make it happen. Yeah. And I think a lot of people need to know, to have that courage to be like, oh yeah, okay, I can do that. Like, I could call up Tosh and say, hey, we're going to do a podcast together. How's that sound?
Right.
And it works. And you could just be like, and hey, like, I'm going to do this event.
And there's so much power in just like making a decision. Right? Like, and being like, okay, I'm capable of this, or okay, I'm going to do this thing. And the reality is like, so if it falls apart or you don't do it or you fail, like that's okay because you've learned from it and you're like, you move on. But, when you make that first initial decision, when you take like something that's in your head or an idea and you start to put action to it, it's like exceptionally powerful. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So for someone that's never been to a Work of Heart event, what can we expect?
I'm not sure. No, I'm just kidding.
Whatever happens to happen.
Yeah, no, I'm just joking.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
I think that tagline might be taken.
Yeah. Just make stuff up on the morning. No, I'm just joking. Well, essentially, like I think about what the community and the audience needs. Like that's how I've always like built and created events. And so I have in my mind, it's not necessarily a theme, but it's a feeling of like what I feel people need. And some of it comes from my own experiences. Some of it comes from like where I am in, in my journey or whatnot. But essentially, like the day itself, it's about speakers. So sharing their story, sharing their, I call it their work of heart. So some of it's, them sharing about their profession, or it might be overcoming a challenge. So all the speakers, that are coming in this year. Some of them are known in the community, but not known as speakers. That's typically how I roll. And so they come in, they share their stories. One of the big things about Work of Heart, I mean, most of you have seen the journals all over the place. So what we do is we take time after each speaker to take a few minutes to like reflect, think about the message, or think about the feelings that you have from what the speaker was talking about. I'm very much about the details as well during the day, so the decor is really important to me. For some people, they notice it, and other people, it's kind of like, it's just kind of in the background, and they're like, oh, that was cool. Oh yeah, there was this, there was that. We have a really cool swag bag this year, which I'm super excited about, featuring a lot of local artists and local businesses. So yeah,
right on.
That's it in a nutshell.
So tell us a little bit more about the speakers this year for the event, because it is a very interesting mix of people, as it usually is. But I find this year, having watched this now for 4 years, this year's group of speakers is very different to me than previous years.
And someone that we love very much is speaking. Yes. She comes on the podcast all the time. I'm so excited for her. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it's interesting, when I started off year one, I was like, okay, I'm just going to find people. And then over the years, like, people have asked me, sometimes people will come to me, or they'll ask if there's applications. There's not. I really legitimately follow my heart on this. And, I'm very much, my community is really important to me. So I'm, either out volunteering or at events, or like I'm meeting people, connecting with people online and offline all the time. And so I just tend to kind of get a sense of what people offer. And then, like I said, when I'm creating the event in my mind, I'm like, okay, what's the feeling that I'm trying to convey? Like, what are the messages that the audience needs to hear? And so that's really where it comes from. And there usually ends up being kind of, you guys don't see it yet, but if you're at Work of Heart, you will. There's always there's a connection between all the speakers and what messages they're conveying. So so that's how it kind of comes about. But for this year, we have some really cool speakers that I'm excited about. One of the, Katie Kelly.
Yeah. That's who I meant.
Yeah. We're the fan club.
Yeah, we are the Katie Kelly fan club.
I don't know how many different times people have told me, they're like before I met her, they're like, you need to know Katie Kelly. Like, you would get along really well with Katie. Anyways, and sure enough, when we met, we were actually meeting about a business project. And we started talking, and I was like, she is so passionate.
So dynamic.
About vaginas.
Yes.
Am I allowed to say that?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. We have her on here all the time. Trust me, we say a lot.
But I mean, she's very passionate about women's health, and she's very passionate about education. And we talked about, the frustration with being able to say vagina, or being able to say or do a lot of things online. So anyways, so she's coming on to talk about, and I also don't direct the speakers to that they have to talk about a certain topic, right? But it will be very different than any of the talks that she's done previously. She's not going to be teaching, because I do have men that come. So we have Katie Kelly. We have Lindsay Doyle, who is kind of related to me we're all from Prince Edward Island, but Lindsay Doyle is a photographer out of Halifax, so she is coming in to talk about how she got started. It's also a really cool story. A lot of times where, people have these passions and things, these strengths, and they're like, no, but I can't have a job doing that. I can't have a business doing that, right? Davida Felic, I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right. She's actually new to Moncton. I got connected to her through the Work of Heart community. And she's a writer, a poet, and I would say she's kind of bringing in some magic. So if you check her, not magic tricks. Yeah. And I'm I did drums, some magic tricks. So you can tell I don't do
and flowers.
I don't clearly don't do magic.
Clearly not a magician.
No. Yeah, and then I have Susan and Jean Cormier coming in. So they are the restaurateurs, entrepreneurs in Greater Moncton, who are honestly just like, they're just bringing so much energy to our community and so many like cool, amazing
out of the box
things.
ideas.
Out of the box ideas.
Love it. Yeah.
So neither of them are speakers, and they're kind of like, really, like, you sure, what is this going to look like? But honestly, I think that they have such a cool story. And so that one will also be a different presentation style, I'll call it, because I want people to understand, what we were talking about earlier. You can have what might seem like a crazy idea to other people and bring it to life and make it work in in unexpected circumstances. So have them. And then the other person that I'm super excited about is Kahari Jones, who is a CFL, and I have to say sometimes Canadian Football League, because not everybody follows football.
Yes.
So he is he's the head coach of the Montreal Alouettes. He and his family are good friends of mine. I started my career off in the CFL as well in Winnipeg, and so connected with him there. And just like, we always had a connection, and I loved his story right from the get-go, because his story is not just about football. He's an incredible actor, and he is, his story of how he got from, being just a backup quarterback to now being a head coach is incredibly cool.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I just, again, it's like, I want people to understand that, things don't always have to make sense, and we don't always have to have this master plan and follow step A, B, C, D, to get to where we want to be. So I hope I haven't forgotten anybody. Chanel Doiron is I call it the master of energy again this year. So she is, so she's joining us, and she is she just understands the vision that I have for the event and the energy that I want to bring, which is the last couple of years has been more of a more intentional around the energy. I mean, it's good to have reflection. It's good to kind of dig deep. But at the end of the day, I want people to leave Work of Heart and go make things happen. Mm-hmm. So that's important for me.
Yeah, she is full of spunk and energy. So to transmit that onto other people is a great idea.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So and then we have a few others joining us to do meditation, breathing, to do to do a bit of yoga as well, and to just kind of balance that energy. I do a lot of work as a mindset coach as well, so I know how important it is to kind of have that balance of being super intense and super focused, and then kind of taking a minute and resetting. So
awesome. You've been to a Work of Heart, right, Jenna?
Yes.
You did one of the first ones?
The very first one.
The very first one.
Right.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes. And it was so interesting because it's such an interesting concept. It's hard to tell people what to expect from the day. And especially the first time.
Hard, yeah.
No, but I think that's part of the magic of it, right? And it's the first time you expect to not have a really good idea because it was the first time you were doing an event. How could you really tell people what it was when it had never happened before?
Right, exactly.
And it was such a fascinating way to hear stories from some people in the community.
Right.
And then watching it grow over the years has been really fascinating as well, because it still is difficult to kind of put, one liner around what this thing is.
Right.
But I think anyone who goes to it will come away with this sense of, okay, this is really neat. And this is a really powerful tool, for a lot of people to connect both with themselves and with others.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, that's been one of the things that I've kind of leaned into is, I, as the event creator or planner, I mean, I can say what I think it is, but really what's happened is I've got this really cool community of people online and offline who talk about their experiences. And so, there might be, one person where they were going through a really challenging time and it helped them do this. And then there might be another person that was they weren't going through a challenging time. They were just ready to take that next step in their career or their business or with an idea. And so it meant for them this. And, the things that I sometimes have overlooked, like people get so jacked about the coffee bar. Or they'll be like, are you doing the hot chocolate bar again? I'm like, I wasn't going to, but apparently now I am. I'm like, or like they'll notice details that, like, of course I, had them there intentionally, but I didn't realize that the impact that some of that would have on people. So.
And you're making a huge impact on people. I mean, it's clear to see when you announce that, okay, Work of Heart 2020 is coming, or even, everybody freaks out. Like, the internet freaks out.
Yes.
I love it.
It's super fun.
It is super fun, and it must just fill your bucket so much, right? Like, everybody, they have their shirts, and they, start sharing their memories of the years gone by. Like, you really have a fan base.
I know. It's so weird. I'm like,
you should have, like, a name for them. Hardies.
Hardies. I know. Well,
and it's pirates. Yeah. My Hardies.
My Hardies. But no, it's like, it's still very surreal for me too, because I'm like, okay, well, like, we're just all buddies, right? Like, we're just all hanging out, and and I mean, it's amazing, and it feels so good to be able to provide something that helps people. But at the end of the day, there's still some times where, I'll be out somewhere and people will be like, hi, Angela. You don't know me, but I follow you. And I'm like, I'm not Ellen.
Yeah, right.
Yet, maybe.
All in due time.
Yeah, all in due time. It's only a matter of time. I am going to be on Ellen. We're talking about, law of attraction and vision. But kidding aside, I'm like, I'm just like a normal, everyday person, I happen to make a lot of things happen, and I do take, those crazy ideas and bring them to life. But at the end of the day, I'm super grateful for, I call it the Work of Heart community.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that has been one of the most interesting things to watch come out of this. Especially because I find, and I don't know that we've had this exact conversation on the podcast before, but I've had it before with people about, there's a very particular kind of energy in Moncton that I haven't experienced other places, right? Like, I've lived in a lot of cities, small and large. Moncton loves speakers. Moncton loves speaking events. Moncton loves that chance to hear people tell stories, especially when they're in this kind of self-help vein, for lack of a better term for it.
Yeah.
And so it's been fascinating to watch it go from just event after event to you've helped kind of really create this community now out of all these events. And so I found that really interesting. And I don't know that it would work the same in other places as the way it does here, because I think Moncton wanted this.
It's funny. I've thought about it, because I've had people reach out to me across Canada and actually into California as well to bring Work of Heart there. And I've wondered the same thing. I'm like, well, is it successful here because I have this like fan base? Is it because it's, because I do it this way? Is it because of that? But I think even like reflecting, when I've taken time to reflect on why people listen to me, which I still think is funny.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But I feel like it's having, real people that you can connect with that have a story that moves you, or like have a story that, resonates with you, or that like, you can connect with them because you're like, okay, well, she's a mom, or she's gone through anxiety or a burnout or whatever it is. Like, I feel like it's because they're real people. Right. And I'm very transparent with like things that are happening for me. And I feel like you could take it elsewhere. And I'm not saying I'm going to, but I feel like you could do that type of thing in other cities. I feel lucky that Moncton is like that here. And I do feel it's because of that connection.
It's really, and I don't know if it's a maritime thing, because I'm not a maritimer by birth. But
we let you live here.
Thank you.
Right. We do like you.
It.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think it's the small town feel. Like, even though we're a city, it is the small town feel, which also resonates back to being nosy. People are nosy and they want to know. It's true.
It's so true.
I'm going to go with, there's definitely a hint of that, because there's definitely been times where I'm like, what are they going to say? I want to hear that.
I know.
I fall down rabbit holes every day.
Right?
So I get that. Also, I'm from a small town, but it's like, I feel like I never left my small town, even though we're a city. It feels the same way. So I think that's what that energy comes from.
Well, and I feel like part of, I think, why so many people come to Work of Heart is that, like, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
I think they're like, what's going to happen there?
Yeah.
What is, like you said, they're like nosy. What is she going to talk about? What happened?
Bar.
Exactly, right? But it's so funny. Like, this year, I'm always, like, really, I tell the speakers, like, once I've said, once we're committed, like, don't tell anyone. It's like hush hush, right? So one of the speakers, like I said, Lindsay Doyle is, I can't even tell you. I think her father and my mother are cousins or something.
Yeah.
Anyways, and another cousin is first cousins to each of us, okay? Angela MacIntyre. And we each thought that we told her that Lindsay was speaking at Work of Heart. Anyways, we got in so much trouble. I was like, I thought Lindsay told you. And then she's like, I can't believe this. Anyways, to your point. Anyways, so, but yeah.
Well, now everyone knows.
Yeah. Now everyone knows the speakers.
You know the speaker lineup.
I think I remembered everyone. If I forgot anyone,
I think so.
I
I'm trying to remember your
apologize.
grid. I think everyone was there.
Yeah.
But we have to wrap up, so you can tell everyone what it is, how they can find out more.
You get tickets, etc.
Exactly. So Work of Heart is taking place on February 22nd in 2.4 weeks.
Very soon,
not that
folks.
I'm counting.
No.
I think it's 17 days. But so it's on a Saturday. It goes basically 9 to 4. And tickets are available now on Eventbrite. You can, get more information on Facebook or on Instagram at Work of Heart. And yeah, I think that's it.
That's all. Perfect.
I'm super excited about it.
Follow them. Be a hardy.
Yeah, be a hardy.
Be a hardy. And of course, we'll put all the links up on the post and when we share this this podcast. So yeah.
Well, thanks, ladies, for having me.
You're welcome. Good luck
fun.
with the events. We know it's going to be a success, of course.
Yes.
Well, yes. Yeah. And quickly, how many people do you usually have at this event?
So I'm
100, 200, 500 ballparks.
So it's typically around, it's grown every year. I think last year I had 140.
Nice.
I'm maxing it out this year at 200. And that's,
So get your tickets before they're
buy
gone.
your
Get your tickets, that's right.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for watching and listening today. Remember to leave us a review or just hit subscribe.